In my role as CEO of Formula Botanica, the online formulation school, I speak to a lot of new beauty brand founders, almost all of whom are just starting out, mainly because we're teaching them to formulate. And there's one common theme that returns over and over when it comes to their business model for selling the beautiful formulations that we've taught them how to make. And it is this. Pretty much all of these founders intend to only sell through their website. And that's not surprising, really, when you consider that for many years, beauty brand founders have been absorbing a very specific message, often without realizing it. And that message is that selling online is the easiest way to build a brand. New founders are told that having a website, an Instagram and TikTok account, and a checkout is the easiest way to sell to customers, that anyone can create a website and that the sales will then pour in. Now, you can set up a website easily. There is a lot of truth to this approach. You can set up your socials. You can generate sales online. Of course, all of these things are very possible, but it is not the only model for selling your products, and it might have its limitations. And this e-commerce or direct-to-consumer, as it's called, gold rush, has meant that some beauty brand founders think that everything else, pop-ups and markets and standing behind a table talking to customers, is somehow optional or even a little bit uncomfortable or embarrassing. And I don't think that messaging is helping anyone. In fact, I think it's creating a generation of founders who are very comfortable hiding behind screens and very uncomfortable standing in front of the people that they claim to be formulating products for. So today on the podcast, I want to ask the question, why do some beauty brand founders avoid meeting with their customers? Hi, it's Lorraine Dallmeier, chartered environmentalist, biologist, and CEO of the award-winning online organic cosmetic formulation school, Formula Botanica. I host the Green Beauty Conversations podcast, which has had well over 1 million global downloads. And these are my green beauty opinions, where I challenge you to think differently about the beauty industry. If you love hearing my thoughts on green beauty, make sure you subscribe to this podcast so you never miss an episode. So last week here on the podcast, I spoke to a mother-daughter skincare brand, Lola Are Now Beauty, which was started by Kathy and Angela. And please make sure you go and listen to their episode if you haven't heard it yet, because they shared a really fascinating insight into working with your family. Anyway, as part of that interview, they told me something that really stuck with me. Now, they sell mainly through their website, but regularly they will go and do a pop-up in a local store where they'll have a stand, a table with their products, and they'll spend the day there and they'll talk directly to people and sell them their formulations. And every single time they do a pop-up, they learn more in that single day than they do from weeks of online sales. And what really stood out to me was how much they value standing face-to-face with their customers. They hear the questions that people ask and they see where customers hesitate, and they learn how people describe their own skin, often in ways that you would never see in a survey or in the analytics from your website. And Kathy and Angela of Lola Are Now Beauty described these pop-ups as moments of intense learning. And that kind of learning is really hard to replicate online. And yet many new founders actively avoid it. I distinctly remember working with one founder many years ago who wanted to sell products specifically for Muslim women in the UK. And she had a wonderful brand idea, absolutely brilliant, gorgeous formulations, and a really strong and clear niche. But when we talked about finding events that attracted Muslim women and going to talk to them, she was adamant that she couldn't do that. And she was terrified. And she isn't alone either. I mean, I use her as an example, but I have seen hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of other women like her. I've seen this all the time. I see founders who feel very comfortable in the back office making formulations and who want to sell directly through their website, but who are terrified of finding themselves face-to-face with prospective customers. These are beauty brand founders who panic at the thought of explaining their product and their business to a stranger. In fact, the number one question that causes some of my podcast guests to fall apart on me is when I ask them to introduce their business. It's just really hard if you're not experienced in it. Now, I want to stress that this episode I'm recording right now isn't about criticizing people who struggle with the face-to-face components of their business. It really isn't. And if that's you, you are not alone, and the way that you feel isn't strange. It's very normal. But instead, this episode is about highlighting that safety, and by that I mean not pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone, comes at a cost. Because if you can't sell a product face-to-face, then how are you going to sell it online? I mean, let's face it, beauty is sensorial and emotional and personal. People aren't just buying a product, they're buying reassurance and understanding and trust. And those things are much easier to understand when you've looked someone in the eye and you've listened to them talk about their skin or their hair. Because beauty isn't built in isolation, it's built in conversation. And the sooner that any beauty brand founder can step into that, the stronger their brand will be. Now, I often hear brand founders say that they're not ready to sell in person. And usually what they mean is that they're just not confident yet. But confidence doesn't arrive before experience. It arrives because of it. Now, I just want to be clear that also this isn't an argument against selling online, because for small brands, selling directly to your customer can be an excellent place to start and indeed a really great place to test your concept and find your footing. And it allows you to test demand and control your margins and build relationships without giving away power too early. And when you're working with small volumes, it can work really well. The problem starts when those founders assume that they won't need to interact with other humans in order to build their brand, and they think that they can do everything hidden behind a screen. And this is where I think beauty business education isn't prioritized enough, because too many founders are trying to wing it, which is why they don't realize that those face-to-face conversations are the most valuable interactions that any beauty entrepreneur can have. And I know this because I see it all the time. And we have a business diploma, our diploma in beauty brand business management here at Formula Botanica, which I lovingly refer to as our Indie Beauty MBA. And when I talk to brand owners about the fact that they need a business education to launch their skincare or hair care range, what I see time and time again is that many people seem to think that they'll be able to figure it all out themselves. And then they remain behind the scenes, hiding behind their computer screens, and they struggle to succeed. And the brands that do succeed are the ones started by founders who invest in their knowledge and their skills and their education. And they use online sales to learn, not just to transact. And then they use that face-to-face selling to listen, not just to push product. Now, if you're a founder who feels uncomfortable at the thought of meeting with your customers, I'd suggest that that is exactly where the most useful learning is waiting for you. And if you're convinced that everything you need to know can be learned from behind a screen, I'd challenge that assumption too. So my challenge to you for this week is this. If you are building a beauty brand, and I know that many of the people listening to this podcast are, and you've never sold a product face-to-face, I want you to go and find a way to do it. I want you to book a pop-up or go to a market or partner with a local store. Put yourself behind a table and talk to real people about what you make and why you make it. And you're not there to pitch or to perform, you're just there to listen and notice the questions that they ask and notice where you hesitate and where they hesitate. And pay attention to the words that people use to describe their skin or hair, because those words are worth more than any analytics dashboard that you will ever look at. And if that idea makes you uncomfortable, well, good. That zone of discomfort is where real growth happens. And I want you to sit with that discomfort, because building a beauty brand without ever meeting your customers isn't efficient and it isn't scalable. Instead, it's fragile. Beauty brands aren't built by hiding. They're built by founders who are willing to step into that conversation and learn in public and let real humans shape what they create. And if you can do that, even imperfectly, you're already ahead of most other people. Thank you for listening to my Green Beauty opinions. Remember to visit the Formula Botanica website at formulabotanica.com to try our free online formulation course. And if you haven't subscribed yet to the Green Beauty Conversations podcast, please do so now in your favorite podcast app and leave me a 5-star review if you enjoy these discussions. I'll be back soon with my next episode.